Hi, this is Joe Avarti and welcome to Church Street Studios, my Sydney studio where I record my podcast, A Serious Chat with a Comedian. Well, my guest today is one of the biggest stars in AFL. For those of you watching from overseas, that's Aussie Rules Football. He is the captain of the GWS Giants, an elite athlete, a top guy, a paesano, he's Calabrese. Let's meet him, Mr. Stephen Coniglio. Stephen, thanks for joining me, mate.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. Pleasure for me.
You're my first AFL guest, and mate, I go straight to the top here.
Yeah.
I mean, for people, because there's going to be a lot of people watching from overseas and listening from overseas. So you are the captain of the GWS Giants. Geez, that sounds such an American name for
Very
a
American.
footy
And
name.
orange.
And they're orange. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, Aussie Rules for people who are watching it over. And you know what? There are massive fans of AFL overseas. I had the pleasure to spend some time with Ringo Starr's manager.
Yep.
Right? And he goes, "Oh, you're from Australia?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What footy team do you follow?" And that just took me aback.
Really?
And I went,
Yeah.
What do you mean, footy, rugby? No, AFL.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know, I like the sport. He goes, I love Essendon. What? What do you know about? Because he said to me that he was just, he was sleeping. He couldn't sleep one night. He's just flicking channel surfing, and he was watching it when it was the VFL.
Yeah.
Not the AFL.
Before. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And he loved it, and he fell in love with the game so much. So then he just naturally went to Essendon. He was an Essendon fan.
Yeah. Back then, especially, yeah.
Yeah, and I said to Adrian Dodoro, who's the list manager for Essendon, he goes, I said, Ringo Starr's manager is a massive fan. I said, do you reckon we can organise a T-shirt, a shirt, a jersey with all the players' signatures? He goes, yeah, if he can get me Ringo's drums kit.
Is that right?
I said, yeah, rightio, mate. That's not going to be a fair
Yeah.
swap. Anyway, mate, so tell me, how do you go? I mean, you're an elite athlete. You're from Perth. Tell us how you got to get into the AFL in the beginning. What does it take as a kid? When did you realise? When did you love footy?
Yeah, I think it's a big, difference. Obviously, I've been, my whole career's been at GWS in Sydney and playing for the Giants and being in Sydney where, AFL is definitely not the number one sport, but, listeners from Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide will understand, how big AFL is in those states. So, personally for me growing up, my mum's English and my dad's Italian and we, grew up very Italian. Yeah. And AFL really wasn't a thing. It wasn't my dad loved it and played a bit when he was kind of growing up, but, for my nonna and nonno and years and everyone it just wasn't a possibility. It was just the fact that, we were going to school when AFL was just so big that I started playing at recess and lunch. First of all, I played soccer or football.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you played soccer.
No, I played that, and then quickly.
Were you good? Were you good at soccer?
I say yes to my teammates now, but I don't know how well I would have lasted. But it was just at the time it was recess and lunch. You play AFL, and my friends played AFL on the weekend, and I quickly fell in love with the game that way. But, so that's how I got into it. It was cricket in the summer, and then you can only choose, I guess, one in the winter, and AFL was that sport for me.
Yeah, right. And but when did they start realising that you were very talented? At what age? So what age did you start playing? Yeah,
I started playing, I reckon, 9 or 10 years old, and then I reckon maybe when I was 15, 16, it wasn't until then. I had a couple of lessons in there for kids out there, not making teams and persisting and working hard to try and get to a certain level. But I don't think personally, for me, I played in a Waffle Grand Final, which is the state league competition when I was 16, and for me, everything changed after that day when we won and I'd kicked a couple of goals. It wasn't until that moment I really found that self-belief and you would know as well, coming from an Italian background. Yeah. My nonna now, God bless her, I still don't think she knows what I do for work, but I don't think she knows that it's full time, that I'm an athlete, that I still get yelled at when I go home for not. For passing on lasagna or coteletti or anything like that. So it's been a challenge for the family. They're very supportive, but it's been a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah. And now, so who noticed you first? Like, who said, "Oh, geez, this kid is good. This kid's great." Let's let's pursue this. What happened from there?
Yeah, look, I think I played at Swan Districts and guys like Nick Natnui and Michael Walters, who are still playing at the moment, were always a couple of years ahead of me, but kind of cleared a pathway.
So Nick Nat's from that
Nick
same
Nat's
area?
from there, yeah.
From what, the Swan area?
Yeah, from the Swan area. He grew up two streets away from me.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Michael
I've done
Walters,
heaps of shows at that Swan Italian club.
That's right there.
Right.
5 minutes. My auntie actually lives about 1 minute walk from there.
Yeah.
And they've been to many shows, but so it wasn't until I always had that kind of self belief, and that's all I wanted to do when I was growing up is play, being an elite athlete. Whether that be cricket or AFL, but it probably wasn't until I was 16 and I'd made the state 16s that year for WA. I played in this grand final for Swan Districts and we won it. It's gone down as one of the great waffle grand finals ever, and that changed for me. After that, I graduated that year from school and had a year off before I could get drafted, and that was kind of the year for me where it all changed.
Yeah. How much do you think as a young athlete, how much do you think being naturally gifted has got to do with being successful or getting into at least the state league or the main league versus how much work you've got to do, how much nurture is involved? What's your take on that?
It's a great question. Even now, I've been an elite athlete, I guess, for 11 years, and I'm still trying to find, the perfect, recipe. What is it? For me, I think you need a little bit of talent, but when I say a little bit, for me, it's 10%. You know, if I'm looking at it, For the rest is, for me at that young age, is you got to love what you do, so you're always enjoying it. The second is you got to sacrifice, and that's the biggest point I think that separates the kids is that sacrifice at that age compared to what everyone else is doing that age. And the third one is hard work. I think that makes up the other 90% for me personally. Maybe a bit of luck in there, but I always say the harder you work, the luckier you get. So. Yeah. For me, it's that, and I've always had that. I don't think I'm that coordinated, but I develop skills to.
I've seen you play, man. I think you kind of are.
But I've worked hard at that.
Right.
People laugh at the way I run, but somehow make it work. So it's just.
What do they laugh at? What do they make fun of?
Don't know. They run like a duck or something.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So. Yeah, for me, 90% is that hard work, sacrifice, and element, which is not often spoken about when the topic talent comes up. Yeah.
Now, mate, AFL is like rugby too. It's a tough sport, mate. In the times that I've seen you personally, there's been a couple of times. You're a very gentle guy. You're a gentle giant, right? So, is there a switch? Because. You're running into a tackle there. And we will show some footage of you playing.
Yeah.
So for the viewers, when I go overseas, and especially when I'm touring America, and they're carrying on about their football over there, right, the gridiron, I'm like, mate, you reckon this is tough? With the helmets and the shoulder pads, and I always show them highlights, a highlight reel of the AFL.
Yeah.
And they're just left there with their mouth open, like this is full on. These guys are going into a tackle. No
pads,
nothing.
Yeah.
You don't strike me as, you're a calm, gentle guy. What happens there?
Yeah, look, I think that's always kind of been, part of, I guess, my upbringing in general. But I think whatever stage you are as an athlete, I think the really good ones or great ones always have that switch. Kobe used to talk about his mama mentality, and you often hear white line fever when it comes to AFL, which is when you do cross that white line, which is the field of play, that you switch into something else. For me, I've often looked at guys like Conor McGregor, like Kobe, and adapted a bit of their mindset. I think you have to, and if you look at all the great AFL players or great sportsmen, if you're looking at the World Cup at the moment, and people are saying, Messi's overreacting and he's angry and all that. He is, but you have to be great sometimes, and you have to get into that, that mindset of win at all cost mentality. I think for me, there's obviously structure to that, and but for me, as soon as I finish that game, if we win, I'm happy. If we lose, I'm upset. But other than that, I try and whether how well I've gone or how bad I've gone, I always try and stay in that middle bit, which is everything who I am as a person.
Yeah, right. So you go from you take some time off, you get into the draft. What number were you drafted?
It's number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So
Yeah.
no, it was.
Sorry, I didn't know that. I didn't do my research on that part. I mean,
No, it was a great thrill for me. We had
So you drafted at number 2.
Yeah.
You get picked by the Giants.
Yeah, got picked by the Giants.
And you've been there ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good like that was the Giants' first year in the AFL. So they had the first 3 picks that night. And I was very fortunate that about halfway during that year, that Stephen Silvani, another I think he's a fullback of the Italian team of the century and the team of the century, but he kind of just said, just we're going to take you in the first couple of picks, so get your head around you moving to Sydney. So I was very fortunate. Some kids don't get that, and they rock up on draft night and they're in Brisbane or Perth, so it was a great thrill for my family and I.
Yeah, and how do you what do you think So how long were you playing before they chose for you to be captain?
To be captain, I was captain in 2019. So 7 seasons.
Yeah,
8 seasons.
Yeah. And what did you think that you had for them?
To be captain.
Yeah. Because it's not a minor role, mate. It's a big thing.
I think
especially in AFL.
No, I think for me, I was growing up, I was school captain at my high school, and I guess every sports side I went into, it wasn't active. I need to be a leader or whatever. I think for me, again, it comes down to everyone around me, my family, my mum and dad in particular, and the upbringing that they gave me to to find. I love seeing and trying to find the best out of other people, and that's my my bread and butter in a way for my captaincy style. Is to be empathetic with my teammates, but try and help them through. I think for me, they saw a bit of that empathy, but like I said before, with that white line fever stuff, and you look at some of our best players, and Toby Green or Josh Kelly, great guys, but we do have that will to win, and that that mentality that we'll do anything to win for the team. So a bit of both, I think. Yeah.
Now, what struck me, Stephen, was I think it was during COVID. I really look. I moved to Melbourne 12 years ago, right? And growing up in Sydney, it was more about rugby and footy. I moved to Melbourne. I fell in love with the game. I just thought AFL was such a great game. And seeing it live as well is very, very different to seeing it on the TV. And then they had that documentary. What was that called?
Yeah, Making a Mark. Yeah,
Making a Mark, yeah. And I remember seeing that. And you were one of the people that were featured in that. And two things. Well, firstly, the first thing that made me realise, this guy's really in touch with his Italianness. You were being some journalist had approached you in the airport somewhere. I don't know where it was, and you had just he asked you a question. You didn't want to talk about it, but you didn't say to him, "I don't want to talk about it." I think he said it in Italian.
Yeah,
he actually said,
"Non parlo oggi." I think.
"Non parlo oggi."
Yeah.
Oh, listen to this guy.
Yeah.
How cool is this? He just says, "I don't want to talk," but he says it in Italian.
Yeah.
And I thought, he's really in touch with his Italianness. But then I saw, so two things struck me in that documentary. Number one is you went back home, were at your nonna's house.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, you really are, in touch with your Italian side. But also, I mean, you had a public in that documentary. The public, you got so what did they call that when you were playing and then they...
When I got dropped?
You got dropped. Yeah, right. Sorry.
I got dropped.
You dropped. And, that's a big thing for number one, for a player to be dropped, number one. One of your profile, very high profile player, the captain, and to have cameras following you around at the time and for it to be aired on this documentary, which, I loved watching it, and it was during COVID. A lot of people would have seen it.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
Yeah, it was, first and foremost, it was difficult. It was definitely, personally, it was one of the hardest years that I've had or the hardest year I've had individually as a person, as a footballer. I think we agreed to do the show, and there was Nick Nat was one of the other, Eddie Betts, and one of the captains, I think Stuart Dew. But we had, the year before that, we'd said we were committed to it, and then COVID happened, and like many businesses around the world, everything just went in pieces. But I think it was a strange year for everyone. For me, going through all that, I wasn't playing my best, but I thought I wasn't, but I think I'm only the second captain ever to get dropped. I definitely didn't think, still wanted to play. But, at the end of that, I reflected a lot on it. And then, when we went, with the editing process and whatever, and they say, proof you. And I was big on just saying, nah, whatever you film, put it out there. I don't need to sugarcoat anything. It is what it is. You can't always, be up, but I wanted, the next Stephen Coniglio, Toby Green, or Nick Natanui out there growing up to say that, it's not all roses at the AFL level, that you go through some struggles as a player and as a person sometimes. And I wanted, people to see that. I didn't feel that I needed to, code over it. I think, adversity for me, and whenever I've faced that, I've always tried to, take something out of it and grow from it. And I think that was the most important thing for me. And I was very fortunate enough. My wife now, at the time, with me the whole time in that hub, which was a great sounding board for me, and I was very lucky. But it was very challenging. Very challenging.
Yeah, because there were some scenes where it was very, it was very confronting. I mean, there was one scene where you were emotional.
Yeah.
I think they even filmed, I think when they told you. Yeah, but it's, it's very courageous for you to have done that. So I think, a lot of people, a lot of kids, especially if you're listening, there's a big lesson to take from that. And good on you, man. That's very courageous for you to do that.
I think with experience, like, you get more comfortable with things. And for me, speaking or, profiling how close I am to my family, or how proud I am to be Italian, or my faith, on things like that. For me, I've got a lot more comfortable as I've gone on, because when you start, whatever, and there's not many Italians around, there's not other people that go to church or whatever. So it's funny, but now the older I've got, I've just kind of just gone with it and hope that it can help or inspire someone else. Yeah.
So growing up, who were your sort of heroes in the football world? Who did you aspire to be?
Yeah, in an AFL context, it was, I was very fortunate to grow up in the Chris Judd, Ben Cousins generation. Well, I loved West Coast, and we used to go and watch games, and my dad used to just say, watch Chris Judd one quarter and watch Ben Cousins the next quarter to me and my brothers. Amazing times.
Did you ever play against them?
I played never against Ben. Juddy a couple of times, and that was the first time I ever met Juddy. We were in the same hotel, and I got so starstruck that there were glass doors, and I actually just walked straight into the door thinking it pushed ahead. So they were for me. I love watching them. Yeah. And
now, I mean, with your contemporaries, who do you think, in the current field of players, who do you think is up there is the best?
Yeah, it's a difficult one now. I think when once you start playing and you appreciate different players. Now I just love the ones that do like say for instance Nick Nat, who's a great friend of mine. I love what he's been able to do on the field and the success that he's had, but how he's so proud of his multicultural background, and there's different players across the competition. I really admire, like someone like Trent Cotchin or Callum Ward, guys like that are again great people, successful, but that have made great careers and great role models for younger kids. So,
hope you're enjoying the podcast. We'll be right back straight after this ad break. Hi, this is Joe Avati, and I am very proud to say that I am now one of the brand ambassadors for Elite Supplements. One of the supplements I take every day is resveratrol, an anti-aging supplement. You know how they say that 1 glass a day of wine is good for you? It's because it's got resveratrol in it. But do you know how much wine you actually have to drink to get any benefit of it? 11 litres. Now, it doesn't take Einstein to figure out that if you're drinking 11 litres of wine a day, you ain't going to be around long enough to see any benefit. So make sure you get your supplements from Elite Supplements. Resveratrol worked for me. Look how young I look. And I'm 73. Hi everyone, I'd like to thank one of the sponsors of the podcast, St. Romeo, who provide great skincare products for men. I'm going to show you some of the products. St. Romeo Facial Cleanser, Rock and Roll Face Scrub. And if you had a rock and roll lifestyle, you're going to need a face scrub. This is their deep cleansing charcoal bar. How putting charcoal on your face cleans it, I have no idea, but it works. This is one of my favorites, the Cucumber Eye Gel. Must be for vegans. And they've got heaps of stuff for your hair too. Shampoos, styling creams, and Stronghold for your hair. Obviously, I don't need any of these. I'd like to thank St. Romeo for being one of the sponsors for the Joe Vardy podcast. All right. Very good. I don't want to talk about footy now.
That's fine.
We got that out of the way.
Yeah,
we had to talk about it if we couldn't talk about it. But I want to, get to know a little bit more about you. I mean, because you love soccer too. You're a big Juve supporter, aren't you?
Big Juve fan.
See, I did my research.
Yeah. Big Juve.
I think I just looked through your Instagram account.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just come back from there.
Did you watch any games while you're over there?
Yeah, I was over there. We saw we played Juve played PSG at home. So I got to that one.
Yeah.
When we're over there, which is great.
Yeah,
on my honeymoon.
On
So
your
I was very lucky.
say.
So I was very fortunate.
Yeah,
The wife went on through.
Your wife drag her along? Yeah.
She was quite happy in the end. Yeah.
Is she Italian background? No.
Armenian.
Oh, Armenian, yeah. So was that the first time she'd been to Italy?
She'd been to Italy before.
Yeah.
First Serie A game she'd been to.
Right.
Yeah. I've been a couple of times, but yeah.
You have you already? Yeah.
Yeah, to a couple of games. Yeah. No, love it.
Because your Italian side is Calabrese, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to Calabria?
Yeah, I've been to Calabria. Yeah, I've been a couple of times. We're from Bavongi, so if there's any listeners out there from the Bavongi area, about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours from Reggio, but from Bavongi.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And what so you just got married, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What's your wife's name?
Rebecca,
yeah. So she'd been to Italy. Was there places that you guys went to that you'd never been to before in Italy?
I hadn't been to we spent a bit of time in Tuscany, so driving through there was great. She'd been, but I hadn't been to Venice. And Florence was like for me, we, like everyone always talks about Florence, but you go to the bigger cities, the Milans and Rome's, but Florence was spectacular as well. Loved it. Yeah.
It is a great place. And what's the future hold? After footy. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, what players earn these days is pretty much out there. I don't know how true it is though when they put out those figures out in the papers. You just don't know. My wife, someone said, "Oh, geez, mate, I googled, because people put it, how much is so and so worth? You know what I mean?" My wife goes, "Well, I read you were worth 22 million.
Is that right? Take that.
Like, is that why you married me?
Yeah.
Well, Wikipedia said I was worth 22 million. So
exactly.
I mean, if you're smart, you can do well out of it and invest well. Where do you see yourself heading?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, I've still. I'm fortunate that I played 12 years and hopefully have still a little bit more to go. Like the exact answer I don't have. I've got a lot of interests and business being one and going through that. I've been involved with a few restaurants, but hospitality, especially over the last couple of years, hasn't been a great business to get into with COVID. But
can you talk about any of those places, or you'd rather just sort of keep it private?
We got like a macelleria actually, which is
of course in Richmond.
So, was in Richmond. Now
it was a Swan Street Richmond.
It was in Swan Street Richmond. Yeah. So that was so. And
where's it moved to now?
We have one in Bondi, which we've had for a number of years.
Oh, so you're
just
part of that too?
Of
course, I know it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've eaten there heaps of time.
Yeah, so I'm involved in that one as well.
Oh, right.
Great
concept.
Pardon? Great concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I'm fascinated in that. And then in terms of I do have a lot of interest, but
Well,
at the moment, I've just started up an academy actually. So
right.
so
Where, here or in Perth?
with the Giants here,
Yeah, right.
in Western Sydney. So I think you look at if you look at the Giants list, or we haven't had a lot of players from Western Sydney.
Yeah.
We have a lot coming through our academy now, which is great over the
Yeah.
last couple of years. But I want to find that next multicultural kid that might not necessarily AFL be their number one sport. For me, it probably definitely wasn't growing up. So why can't I find someone else and provide them? I think what AFL does really well is provide clear pathways. It starts with Auskick, and then you go through. You look at other sports and the fees that they charge compared to AFL. I want to provide kids, in Western Sydney, a platform and a pathway to AFL that are multicultural and are disadvantaged, and put them in an academy, which we have started this year, and we're going to keep growing over the next few years to get them playing for the Giants one day.
Yeah. In terms of personal development, what do you do, to keep yourself right on the edge? Do you look at other players, other sports? How does that work for you?
Oh yeah, I read a lot. Yeah,
Right.
often. You look at looking overseas and whatever. I'm still studying. It's going to take me a while to finish my degree, but
What are you studying?
I'm starting doing commerce.
Oh, right,
at the
okay.
moment. So
Yeah.
yeah. So it's been it'll be a long process, but that's fine. Like, it's good. Like, I think that again the AFL are big on that. Everyone has to do something, whether it be a trade, one day a week or a few hours a week. So yeah, it's for me, constantly learning is something that I've always been particular. It's come not easy, but I put the time in for it.
Yeah. And for the young kids listening, the girls and the boys, because the girls are doing so well, aren't they, with
Very well.
AFL? Am I right? How many girls are registered to play AFL in Australia? It's
A
quite
high
a large
number.
number.
A high number, and now every AFL side has a AFLW team, which is phenomenal compared to it's been around 7 years now, I think.
Is it progressing a lot quicker for the AFLW than the footy, for the girls in the footy?
Yeah.
How's it comparing?
No. It's definitely. I think the AFL has been really good in terms of, when you set up a AFL side in Western Sydney compared to the AFLW coming into Western Sydney, it was a smooth process. Of course, hard for the girls at the start, but in terms of having a base, having a facility for every side in the competition, showing those games on TV. There's some, like when we go out now to clinics and speak to kids and interact with kids, they're naming AFLW players now before they would, AFL player, which is just, great. And I think, same with footy in Sydney. If we wait another 10 or 15 years, it's going to become even bigger than what it is.
Yeah. And what about AFL in terms of even in the Queensland market and also the New South Wales market? I mean, you guys have done a big, sort of push, and you've given it a good go.
Yeah.
How is that? How have you seen it change in your? Well, how long have you been with the Giants now?
Yeah, this is my 12th year.
12th year, yeah.
It's funny, like when we first, Israel Folau played for us for a year.
Yeah.
Right, and so when we used to go out to school clinics, they didn't know anything about AFL really. They'd say, Israel Folau, the team with Izzy.
Yeah.
And then I reckon 5 years ago that started to swing a little bit, and there was more talk, more players playing, and now we go there and we've either been there before, or they know the Swans or the Giants, or a big Melbourne side in Richmond or Carlton. Yeah. So it's definitely going. It definitely is.
Yeah. And where's your favourite place to play? Like, in terms of a crowd, is it the G? Is it the MCG?
Oh, yeah. The G is the easiest answer because it is number one. For me, I love playing at Optus Stadium in Perth.
Yeah. That's a great stadium, isn't it?
It's a great stadium, and my
world
family,
class. I mean, it's just one of the best in the world.
My family are there. I don't know, I love playing here at Giant Stadium. It's a great ground, but for atmosphere, and we'll get there eventually. But there's nothing that beats the MCG, that's for sure. Yeah.
Who do you love playing against?
But Sydney, we've built quite a great rivalry with Sydney.
Yeah.
But again, when you come up against those, I remember 2017 preliminary final. We played Richmond down in Melbourne. So whoever wins this plays in the grand final, and we played down there, and 100,000. It was Saturday afternoon, 100,000 people, and I think we had 1,000 people, 1,000 fans.
Yeah,
they had 97, and there was 2,000 corporates, I think. And that was just like when you play in those big games, it's special, and it's everything you watch when you're a kid when you're watching those big games, and being in that moment, it's very special, as I said.
Like they say, it's every kid's dream to kick a goal after the siren. Have you had one of those?
I haven't. It's coming this year though. It's coming this year. Yeah, we've played a lot of close games, and they're obviously enjoyable, and the ones that mean the most. But not the kick after the siren, not just yet. Yeah.
Now I know you're a big soccer fan, so how gutted were you that Italy didn't make it? I mean, it's just
it's hard to talk, isn't it? It's hard to talk about, isn't it? Yeah. It's 2 in a row as well, especially.
Yeah.
Could have been our World Cup as well, but it's very, very gutted. I think as much as I'm a fan of football, especially in this country, and I love watching the A-League, and love watching the Socceroos do well, and I support the Socceroos. But I think you would understand as well for 06 especially was an important time for every Italian in Australia, and I think for me, in terms of those big tournaments, there's nothing like when Italy are playing in a football World Cup. So it was hard. It's hard, and everyone and friends and family are still affected by it. It's not going to be until next week when it's all over that we'll be able to look forward to the next one.
Yeah. No, well, this episode will probably air early next year. But have you got a prediction for the World Cup?
Oh, it's hard because it's just this World Cup's been. I think the Argentina Messi fairy tale may come true. Come true. Yeah. I just got a feeling.
Would you have loved to have seen Ronaldo and Messi?
That would have been the best.
That would have been the best.
It would have been maybe the biggest game of all time.
Yeah.
So it was a shame the way things ended, but I think for me, Argentina, I've just got something about them.
You know what fascinates me? Maybe you can shed some light on this. Being an elite athlete yourself. I mean, I don't follow soccer that closely like you do and other people do. It's for various reasons. I mean, I love the game. I just don't follow it as much as other people do.
Yeah.
And I've seen highlight reels of Messi. I've seen highlight reels of Ronaldo. I mean, they're both amazing players. I mean, the best. But what, can you understand the people that just go, nah, Messi shit, no, Ronaldo. How could you say Messi shit? I mean, okay, you might like Ronaldo or you might like Messi over Ronaldo, but how could that happen? And who's your favourite and for what reason?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I used to say Messi, and then when Ronaldo came to Juventus, I was a big I started saying Ronaldo. It's hard to say who's the best. For me, the perfect analogy is that Messi is from a different galaxy. I think he's a Maradona type, once in a lifetime type player that's genuinely from somewhere else. No one, and we go back to.
So why is that? I mean, I've seen Ronaldo do things.
Yeah,
I've seen Ronaldo do amazing things. But maybe I have seen the wrong highlight reel of Messi. What am I missing? Well, explain to me. Explain to someone who doesn't know that much about the difference between both players. From a professional athlete's point of view.
So I think. So Messi is more gifted, I think, in terms of what we're saying before about the talent and the hard work. I think Ronaldo epitomises everything about how to come from literally nothing and the upbringing that he had to all hard work, sacrifice, wanting to be the best. That mentality, that you speak about with the greats. For me, that's Ronaldo, and so he's. The greatest on earth, and Messi's maybe the greatest from a different galaxy. So for me, Messi is just very gifted, like a Maradona. You actually can't explain. Same with Ronaldo, you can't explain some of the things they do. But I just feel that Ronaldo has just worked, tirelessly. Not more. I'm not saying I haven't seen that, but from what everyone says and has said about Ronaldo, Messi was amazing at 16, 17, and everyone knew he was going to be a star where
Yeah.
Ronaldo wasn't. He actually had to, craft his way into that.
And
Man
he does
United
work hard, doesn't he?
Yeah, super hard. So he actually worked at it maybe a little bit more, had a harder path to get to where they are now.
Yeah, cool. Well, that leads me to my final question, Stephen. What do you do every day? I mean, especially, but you're a professional athlete, you're an elite athlete. It's a job, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a job. I mean, I remember when you had a couple of injuries and you were like, you really had to work to get back on track. And I'd see pictures of you in these, it's like space suits or something,
Yeah.
So what do you do every day to motivate yourself to be the best?
Yeah, it's good. I think I always try and put things into perspective. I think for me, again, I love what I do. I wake up every morning, and this is something that I've dreamt of since I was a little kid. And that's honestly the morning when I'm driving to work or training, if you call it work.
Yeah.
And then I always we'll repeat that, and I often just take a moment to think about what I'm grateful for, my wife and my family and everyone back home. But for me, it's hard. I want the number one thing is I want success. I want to be in the first premiership team for the Giants. But a lot of what I do is wanting to make my family proud. I took a lot of I guess happiness out of being the first person from my family to being a professional athlete, or to actually go into state and I had a lot of cousins that were amazing influences on myself and well travelled and always gave me that belief that there is, and I was a big dreamer growing up and just had great support around me. But for me, it's always perspective and wanting to make those people around me really proud of what I do, and now it's about now it's changed, winning and doing that and inspiring the next generation, hopefully.
Yeah, cool. I got one more question I thought about.
Yeah.
So your surname, Coniglio,
Coniglio.
as we know, it means rabbit.
Yeah.
Are you happy your parents didn't call you Peter?
Yeah. Literally, there's only a few. It's funny, as time has gone on, there's only been a few people along, whether it be staff or players, that actually know that a few people call me Rabbit.
Yeah, right.
Around the place, but everyone's, why are they calling you Rabbit? So it's very good though.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Stephen, thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure. I love watching you. Love watching your career, and you're an inspiration to a lot of people. You're an inspiration to young people. You're an inspiration to a lot of Italians too.
Thank you,
see you and keep it up, mate.
No, thanks, and thanks for inviting me on the show. I think for me, it's a special moment as well. I used to listen to you as a little boy, and I've been lucky enough to become friends with you now. So if my nonna, I'll make sure my nonna hears this. Big shout out to her and my aunties as well.
Ciao, nonna.
Yeah, ciao, nonna.
It's nice. What do you think of Stephen? That's a nice boy. Do good things. Good football.
Appreciate it, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.